Okay, we're gonna get started here. Volume looks like we're on and ready to go. People are tuned in, watching. Lots of familiar faces. Okay, and so let's jump to it. Hey everybody! My name is Michael Markowsky. Welcome to my studio here in Vancouver, Canada. And today we are going to be continuing our lesson on hands. So on Tuesday we spent the time learning the basic structure of drawing hands. And then today what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to take that to the next step to draw hands grasping and pointing, maybe even forward. So this kind of thing where when I'm holding my hand up like that is called foreshortening, where you can see this hand here, right? Look how much smaller these fingers look than these fingers, right? Because they're closer to us, so they get bigger. Even, let's say, the closer you sort of get to something, the camera's not going to focus because I've turned the focusing off, but things tend to appear to be bigger, right? And as artists, we can really exaggerate that to really create the effect that something is kind of jumping right out towards us. So let's get right to it, because I want to do lots of drawing today so that we can kind of really practice some of these basic techniques, because really the only way we're going to get better is by practicing. So if you really want to refine your drawings and make them look really beautiful and realistic so that they appear to jump off the page, three-dimensional, then you can go back and watch some of the earlier episodes where I showed how to shade objects. But today we're really going to be learning the kind of basic structure. So we're going to be doing a lot of drawing very quickly. So in the last episode, I kind of walked everybody through what is inside of my pencil case. So I'm not going to bore anybody with that again. Oh, let's scoot that over. But again, you could use any kind of pencils you like. I would just probably use my HB pencil or a 2B pencil. Especially when you're doing the first layer of drawing, you want to draw lightly. Now, I'm going to use my colored pencils as always, and I saw a comment from one of my viewers in Quebec saying that the red wasn't showing up very well on the page. So that's not, I don't think, the red's fault. That's just maybe because I'm not drawing dark enough, because I guess I'm used to not really I'm used to drawing very lightly when I do that first layer of drawing. And so I guess I'm kind of in that headspace, so I'm trying not to press too hard. And I also don't want you at home thinking if I'm going to draw really hard that you want to replicate that darkness, the density of line. Okay, so we'll do, let's say, a bit of a refresher from, let me see. Today we're not going to, as our warm-up drawing, we're going to sort of jump right back into it, because if this is the first time you've tuned in, what we generally do is do a warm-up drawing or two and then jump right into the lesson and then do a final drawing at the end of the session. And if there's time at the end, or if people have sent in images that they'd like my feedback on, that's what I usually spend the last 10-20 minutes doing. So just as a heads up while I'm talking about that, if you want me to take a look at your drawings, send them through my Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter pages. All of the links are in the description below. So you want to do that now versus at the very end when I'm starting to think, okay, it's almost over, I'm going to run and grab some food. So you want to catch me before we go. Okay, so as a warm-up drawing, let me see. Let's divide our page in half. Maybe we'll do a couple drawings on either side. So how about, just as a refresher, I think we're going to draw a hand, let's say kind of like this. So maybe actually I'm going to make this even bigger. So pardon the interruption here. Okay. So move that down there, move my pencils out of the way. Okay. So I'm going to draw this hand right here, and we're going to draw the palm for this exercise. So I guess I'm going to stand over here so you can see me in there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look for this slice of bread, as I've referred to it. So, and maybe I'm going to draw smaller here, because sometimes it can be easier to draw one-to-one. So maybe I'm just going to draw it a little bit smaller. So I'm not really looking at my hand right now. I'm just trying to get this basic structure in. So, and there's no mistake here. This is a little bit asymmetrical, right? So this is representing this curve, right? So this curve here, so it's not a perfect semicircle, it's a little bit rounded, right? Because this finger's a little bit lower. And let's say this hand, let's say let's do the fingers spread out, I guess. All right, so I'm just going to continue these lines. Okay, and this here is going to be a little bit longer than my fingers, so okay, and then I'm going to, in between here, I'm going to divide this in half, and let's say I'm going to put one row of fingers here, another row of fingers there, another one here, something like that. Maybe a little bit wide, but that's okay. And then we have the pad, this top part of the hand, which is actually, you know, kind of more like a bean shape, I guess. Right here. We got this shape here, and then we've got this here. And you notice how I always kind of draw it kind of going a little bit off, even though this is going to get a chunk out, but it's, just imagine this line continuing out, right? Because we kind of get this under here, but this part is just kind of missing. But for all intents and purposes, this is still there. Okay. And then if we want this kind of line, generally, if we continue this down, right, so this here is this kind of joint right here, right? And then similarly, this kind of comes up. And this comes up here, meaning these fingers, this will be the longest one. Sometimes you need to make some adjustments. So so then once I've kind of got this laid out here, I can then start kind of, I guess I was drawing too lightly again, my apologies. So again, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, let's say I'm going to go around this side here, trying to capture. Now this is, if you're drawing my hand's going to be different than your hand or anybody else's hand on Earth. So I'm trying to kind of just do a generic version of a hand here. So you may have some fingers that are longer than others. Your thumb might look a little bit different, longer or shorter. So if you want, you can even just, at this point, you know, take this and then start looking at your hand to see how they match up, right? Right, so if I look, I'm going to make some little adjustments here for this finger. And there's going to be a bit of a more pronounced kind of edge in here. Alright, so I'm just sort of looking to see how where some of these lines match up. Alright, okay. So, and then I get my wrist in here. And of course you can go in and add any other, we can start doing the shading on here, but as I said, that's not really part of, you could easily take this drawing and start kind of shading it in to get it to wherever you like. And you know, if I want to try to see how perfect or any mistakes, like I feel like my thumb might be a little bit long, maybe a little bit wide, right? So that might mean I could shrink my thumb down and extend those fingers, but for all intents and purposes, that looks pretty good. So I'll just leave that there for a second. Okay, just let anybody catch up. Okay. Okay, so next, what I want to do is, and let's see if I've got a photo. I took a whole bunch of photos of my hand. Oh, come on. Let me see if we have something good here that we could use. I mean, well, let's... yeah, I'm thinking to myself, do I want to start drawing directly from my hand? Might be nice to have something that's a little bit more static, so let me see. Oh, actually, yeah, maybe let's, okay. Figuring everything out as I'm going here, so let's see this one. I have to create a new one of these. Okay. Okay, come on. And then, oh, this is the sketchbook. Okay. Cool. Okay, let's move that into position. Okay, so I'm just gonna, here's a photograph of my hand. And make that a little bit smaller. Yeah, I'm gonna make it smaller just because it could be a little bit, well, actually, I'm gonna keep it big, but I'm gonna draw it smaller. So I'm going to move my sketch pad over here. Now the reason why I'm showing you this image on the screen is because I'm going to teach you kind of a little bit how to draw this hand on a bit of an angle here, which is slightly different than this, right? So today's just like you might expect, everything's going to get slightly more complex as we go. Okay, so when I'm looking at the drawing or the photograph on the left here, I don't just see this you know, I see this, I mean, here everything's kind of flat. As I start to turn here, now there's some thickness on my hand. So I'm going to kind of draw this piece of bread as if it's kind of like in perspective. Okay, so I'm just sort of what I'm drawing here is kind of, let me see if I can get my hand, this line on the outside. All right, so if I even want to just kind of take that all the way up to, say that my fingertips are going to be somewhere here. Let me see, just kind of like that first finger is going to be there, this index finger. Okay, and then that means kind of the base of my hand is going to be somewhere down here, and then my wrist. Okay, so now I'm looking for, we're going to create this arcing shape. All right, so before I even do that, I'm just going to build this kind of, as if it's like the side, you know, so let's say imagine this was this eraser, and then here now we're seeing the edge of the eraser here. Okay, so maybe I'll start down here. This is slightly sloped, all right? And then it's going to kind of come up this way. All right, and then now I want to try to get this arc in here. And you can kind of just even look at like where the top versus, so where this line is versus this line, right? So it may even mean this gets a little bit more dramatic. So you can imagine if this was a box, right, that this would be the other side that we can't see. So maybe I'll just I'm going to draw this darker just so that it's visible. But you'd probably want to keep it fairly light on your own page. Okay, so let's draw the fingers next. Right, so here we're sort of drawing the fingers as if they're flat. Now we're going to sort of make them three-dimensional. So again, I want to find where the middle is, just like I did here. So this is going to be kind of between the fingers, between these two fingers. Right? And let's just imagine this finger, I guess, kind of goes outward like that. So I continue this up here. Right? And then this arc kind of goes down like this. Just like that, right? Now, it does kind of go up and down, but just based on the way that photograph was taken, we look at the two fingers up there. Ordinarily, this would be longer, but because this hand is kind of turned a little bit, you know, now it's coming down a little bit below. So that finger looks like it's going pretty much straight up and down. This would be in between those fingers. So I'm just kind of tapering them off a little bit. Okay. So maybe I'm going to draw these darker again. Not that you need to do this, but I'm just, especially since I'm introducing this, I want to make this as clear as possible. All right, so this is, okay. Let's get this next finger in here. Okay. And this one here. So this might need to come down, let's see, a little bit here. And this one is going to be even smaller. I think the way that I did that arc didn't quite cover it, right? Okay, right, so then here's where we have this kind of bean shape right here in the palm. And then we've got this other kind of pad right here. And then let's draw this kind of avocado shape right there. Everybody still with me here? Okay. So now this, let's say it's a little bit tricky. Let me, okay, how about I'm going to draw this darker. And then let's imagine it's kind of sticking out of the side of this thing here. Right, so now this is what that looks like. Does that make sense? Like, you can almost kind of imagine this is now removed and this has been added into it. So then we can add, let's simplify this kind of thumb. I can imagine this, it's going to be a little bit longer. So it'll be something like that. Right, and then this would be the, okay. So I'm just going to go over this again. Maybe I'm just going to shade this side here so that you can see so to make this as clear as possible so that I think I might, you know what, I might even actually draw this again from scratch, which you can, if you want to do, you can do, or if you want to just continue drawing on your drawing. But I think just so people see the difference between these two drawings, right? I know everything looks really simplified. Maybe we can kind of very quickly, let's say we decide these are the joints in between here. Something like that. Okay. So, maybe I'll just let that sit on the screen just for a second because I don't want to go too quick. But yeah, I am going to draw it again on the next page so that, because I'll explain it when I'm doing it. Okay, so I'm actually going to turn this over and I'm going to draw it again. I'm going to do it a little bit bigger so that you kind of, I'll kind of take that drawing to the next step here. Okay, so I'll do this maybe a little bit faster. Okay, so I'm looking to create that bread shape. Okay, so it's going to be just a little bit smaller here. So this finger. Okay, I think that's kind of caught us back up. Okay, so the reason why it helps kind of just drawing this boxy shape is because we're now actually going to start turning these things into cylinders. So to kind of eventually, so as you practice this, you could probably go right to the cylinders once you understand it. But I think sometimes it's a little bit confusing for people to see how the whole cylinder thing works directly on its own. So let's just now start making these joints in between the fingers here. So now I'm looking at the photograph, trying to get a little bit more precise. Okay. I'm going to start with these. Oh, I forgot these kind of sides. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. Maybe I'm going to use it, just sharpen this up real quick. So I'm going to turn these into individual kind of like cylinders. Alright, so that these... Now this here we don't really see the bottom of these cylinders so much. Oops, this finger's going to be kind of wide, but that's alright. Okay, let me see. We'll start seeing... So, if you imagine these are... And this is the other side of that cylinder. Okay. Oops, okay. So you see how like this is kind of like the, maybe I'll draw it again on the next one just to make it, let's say this is the outside part of the cylinder and then this is kind of like the other side. And I'm not really looking at the photograph so much at this moment, just because, again, I'm demonstrating an exercise. And so these fingers are looking a little bit wide, like this one's wider than this one. So, but I can, again, once I've got stuff on the page, I can always kind of fix it, I guess, right? So now let's do this one here. See how it kind of almost looks like a robot hand, right? Made of some kind of, it's like Iron Man kind of thing, right? So we see these kind of curves going around this shape. So they've gone from kind of boxy shapes to these kind of cylindrical shapes. And the reason why I draw the kind of, at this stage anywhere, I'm drawing the kind of these dotted lines of the other side is just so that you can kind of help visualize them as these kind of round, kind of sausage shaped cylinders kind of thing, right? And that these curves go all the way around. Okay. So now let's come down, maybe for our purpose, I'm just going to draw this as a straight line. And then, if you imagine this as also not a cylinder, but a rectangle in which the edges are kind of rounded off, I guess. Now, let me see. Here's this circle. If you think of it like almost like a hockey puck, kind of in the palm here. Alright, so this Now, kind of it comes... Alright. And then, same thing, I'm going to make it I'm just going to have to... I'm going to adjust this thumb just so it fits on the page. I think I have to come up a little bit higher. Right? But that's, again, once if you understand this whole kind of process, then you can extend or change or bend fingers in all sorts of different ways in order to make this work. Okay, so let's say here it's a little bit long, so I'm just gonna... Oops, no, it should be this way. And that would be the dotted line. Okay. So, does this make sense so far? Let me see. So, you know, if I wanted to... How about actually, maybe... I said I wasn't going to do any shading today, but maybe just while I'm right here, I will do a little bit. I showed you my graphite pencil last class, so maybe just going to darken one side here really quickly. Again, I'm not really looking at the photograph. I'm just doing this as a demo so that you see how these shapes work. Okay. And then maybe I'm just going to use this blue here to kind of, so if I was kind of shading, as I'm coming around, you can see in this is my hatching method, right? I'm kind of making these little curving marks. So I'm kind of trying to almost kind of curve around the corners. Maybe I'll make them a little bit darker so that you can kind of see. And then right here they switch from going this way to going this way. So understanding that these now become more curved can also really help you when you're trying to shade these shapes. Obviously, this is now a very generic kind of shading. I'm not looking. I'm not doing all the wrinkles. I just want you to see this as kind of like the roundness of these forms. Maybe even on this side. All right, and this will continue down into the wrist. All right, and this would be okay. So, do I want to continue drawing on this? I'm not sure if people were how far they were, if you were just kind of watching that. Maybe. Wonder. You know what? I might actually do this drawing again, and then you can kind of see the kind of the process step by step, how we get to a little bit more of a finished drawing. How about that? Maybe I'll just leave it up there for a second because I know some people might be watching and following along, and I might be going a little fast, so take my sip of tea break. You know, this kind of thing you could even have. This is kind of how you get into, then you start doing the cross hatching, right, like that's happening there. Right, so these are hatching lines, and then as I start doing this crossing stuff, and I start crossing my hatchings over one another, then they become cross hatching. Right. Okay. So I think I'm going to leave this drawing here, and then I'm going to do it again, and then we're going to start. I'll put a little bit more nuance into it. Okay, so again, if you don't have to, if you want to redraw it, go right ahead. You'll probably be the third time you do it will be better. I'm just gonna move this one over here so I can get that thumb in. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna try and get this in, this finger. Okay. So I know I've drawn a little bit lighter, and then maybe I'll come back now. I'll do this with these kind of, I'll turn this into a more of a circular, cylindrical kind of style. And I really believe that if you can get those, if you can see the cylindrical aspect of these fingers, it will make it easier to shade and then to start kind of making these more three-dimensional. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over it with the blue so that you see how this could work. Okay, so how about I'm going to start, I'm going to go right up here. Now, this is a stylistic thing. I personally, when I'm drawing, try to avoid straight lines, especially when I'm drawing human bodies and organic things, and try to, do I have a, where did that extra little piece of paper, yeah. So I try to avoid straight lines and either go for curves, you know, curves concave or convex, right? So that this is just going to make things look more organic, right? Because like you can see with this one, lots of straight lines. It makes this look like a piece of metal and machinery. And we want it to more kind of rounded lines for when we're drawing something much more organic. The other thing too is as this finger kind of starts turning, right? It goes from kind of a round, so as this finger kind of goes from this shape to, as it starts going here, we start curving it, right? So that as we go here, right? So this goes from this curve to this curve like that. And that also kind of, it's a kind of convention of comic books, I suppose, is where I got that from. But I always find it even though, again, if you look at the photograph, it's kind of going the other way, I just always have found adding that little curve just helps us see that we're on the bottom side of the hand, the palm. Okay. So, yeah, so the bottom, you can see on one side of the hand, I'm kind of building up like this, and the other side is more like this, around there. Okay. Okay, and I'm just going to make an adjustment here. That's what the underdrawing is for. So now you can see a bit more of that curvature in the photograph here, a little bit more clearly, right? Maybe that finger's a little bit long, so I'm just going to shorten it up. I'll just put this ring on here anyway. And you know, while I'm right here, I can just sort of do a quick little few lines to kind of show where the folds are. Okay. And then I have them down here as well. And then you can see the skin kind of roll up in front of the other. Alright, so this just helps remind us that this shape is in front of this shape when its shape kind of goes in front. Right? Because we can also do it the other way. Right? I think we talked about this when we were doing the tiger's legs, right? So in that example, we had two legs on a tiger. You just put one line like that, and now we see this shape as being in front of this shape, and this is being further in behind, right? So it's the same thing right there. Okay, so then I'm going to come do the same kind of curving. And I'm not going to shade all this, but I think it's, you know, I think you can, oh, this nail I just goofed on. So that nail should have been shorter and wider. Okay. So again, so there, you can also draw like this, that kind of almost like that flat shape on this side here. I'm just kind of sketching this in so that you see that. And you know, you can also kind of think of it as like the shadow line. So if I was going to shade this whole thing, just making little lines like this for myself would kind of help tell where kind of the darker areas of this drawing are going to be. sometimes I just get carried away with drawings, and I just want to. I feel compelled to want to finish them, but I want to show lots of stuff. Okay, so I think this finger should be longer, even though, again, sometimes just because I start with the photograph doesn't mean I'm a slave to it. Sometimes I gotta kind of start making a few little adjustments and changes to make it look more believable. All right, maybe this finger should be a little bit shorter. Okay, so how are we doing here? Okay, so I think I want to move on, but I know I've been kind of moving quickly, so ideally you could get to this stage in 5 minutes or less if you practice this. I know, it's taken us like half an hour, but I've also kind of been drawing the drawing over and over again to show you these kind of things. But ultimately, you want to be able to. In fact, let's do this. Let's do some faster drawings. Speaking of the devil here, so where's this one? No, actually, where was? Okay, so I'm going to bring that up here in just a second. I'm going to leave this on screen for a moment while I find some more images. What one should we draw? Let's maybe a side one here. Okay, I'll just kind of show some possibilities. These are just some photos I took the other day of my hand. For options as to what we could draw. Maybe, why don't we try something like, is that too similar to what we just did? I think I've got some, well, it might be, because I think I want to add, I think I've got a bunch of grasping lines here, so let's take a look at these. Okay, I think, was this one in the thumbnail? I can't remember which one I put in the thumbnail. That one, I want to get to this one. Do we want to try jumping right there? That might be a little tricky. I think we'll do a few before we get to this. Okay, so reaching ones. Not quite as dramatic as a. This was one of these. Okay, so you can see how, so this is a real foreshortened hand. We can really see it kind of jumping forward. How about we'll try this one, because it's kind of a little bit in between. Okay, so let's we're going to sketch the underdrawing again. Yeah, so I think, what we'll do is we're going to do this one in a bit of detail, kind of like the last one. Then we're going to do maybe 4 much smaller, faster ones, and I'll show you how to draw these much faster. But until we get this initial. So how am I doing this? How am I finding these lines? Right? Some of you are probably like, well, what's going on here? Because I see this line is kind of going in this direction, and you've just drawn it like this. What I'm doing is I'm trying to connect this line between the arm, I guess, or the wrist to the finger, right? So you kind of have to use your X-ray vision and draw this line here and not get kind of carried, because this is just this flabby skin in here, right? It's not part of the real structure of the hands, right? So that's what I'm looking for. That, and then I can look and see the wrist here in that line, right? And there's a bit of a twist here as this finger comes down, but I think I'm gonna try to draw this in the least complicated way for us. So we only see maybe a little bit of this side of let's say of this bread, right? So we've got this side. Now let's draw this finger. And it may even help us to draw them fully extended, and then we'll bend them, right? Obviously, as you get going and you're able to do this faster and better, you don't have to do all of these kind of in between steps, right? You would go a little bit faster, but I think for us to learn them, we're going to kind of go over these basics. Okay, and then let's just we'll draw the thumb in here. So now we're going to start bending these fingers. So how about let's start with our index finger, the pointer finger here. So it's not as bent as the other ones. So let's say this is a cylinder. Maybe this here was pretty much going right across, right? And then we have this fingertip. Okay, and I'm just going to ignore those other fingers here. We're going to draw right through them. All right, so again, we have to use our imagination to see some of this stuff. This was here. And then it's kind of like this. And then we have should have been a little bit longer, but again, we can fix all that when I go back over it for the final part of the drawing, right? Okay, so now it's going to get, this is where it gets a little tricky with this finger that's bending forward. All right, so we've got this curve. And now do you see how this bottom is wider at the top? Maybe I'll just draw this here. So we have something kind of like, I'm exaggerating it a bit, but see how this is bigger than this, right? Because it's coming up further, it's getting closer to us. So I'm drawing that, and I might even exaggerate it a little bit more from the photograph. So I'm just trying to see that shadow's pretty intense, isn't it? And then it kind of comes out this way. Okay, and that ring was, let's just put this kind of right down here. There's my ring. Okay, and then the other finger is kind of doing, we've got this. I'm going to exaggerate things again. Let's say we imagine this, and then dotted line. Where is it going? It's kind of going, pointing across here like that. Do this again. Looking at that fingernail coming over and bending backwards. Similarly, there's a fingernail up here, hard to see, just barely on the top. Okay, so everything's not perfect yet, but this kind of gets us into the game. Well, as I go over it afterwards with my blue, I'll be able to solve any kind of problems that might be here. Let's now do the thumb. Again, I might move the thumb a little bit to make it fit on the page. And then we've got this kind of fleshy skin right here. And then the arm. You know, as I'm looking at this, there's maybe a few inconsistent. Maybe this whole hand would want to be more like that. It almost looks like, so I kind of drew it on a bit of a slightly crooked. So I'm going to now just start going in here and maybe kind of cleaning it up a little bit. And I'm going to draw from the top down. So I'm going to work from the things that are maybe closest to us, and then I'm going to sharpen this up a bit. Actually, I just want to take a quick look to see if we're still working fine here. Heidi says, for some reason I tend to make the fingers shorter than they should be relative to the palm of the hand. I will get it eventually. Oh, and Flash wants to know, can we draw the thumbnail, please? Yes, absolutely, you can draw the thumbnail. But I think we'll get to those places here shortly. I think the first thing is just understanding the structure, the high-level details. So great. In terms of making the fingers longer or shorter, you know, there are many different artists who draw the hands very differently. Like, hands can be very expressive and really show our, you know, like when I was showing Egon Schiele last week. Another artist really known for really long fingers would be El Greco, a Renaissance painter, muralist. Okay, so I'm just going to come in here and just add these little overlapping lines here. So that's going to help, again, show that this shape is in front of this shape, in front of this shape, S shape for this fingernail. Okay, and then I'm going to come up here. This is going to continue. I got this. I'll draw my ring in here just to help make it make sense. Okay, so we have this finger comes down, and we didn't even talk about this kind of squishing of the you know, all that skin in the palm's got to go somewhere, right? Okay. And if I was to shade all of this, I could really have a lot of fun with these kind of curving, hatching lines or blending. Okay, so now I'm going to come to this hand here. Okay, getting these nice curves. That nail up top. So I should have maybe made this a little bit longer. Okay. You also see why drawing through the shapes is helpful. Because let's say I didn't know where exactly this finger would end up, so having it there allows me to kind of, you know, it looks believable because I literally drew it attached to that other thing. It's not kind of floating there all by itself. Okay. So again, you can see I'm still doing this curving. Right, one side's curving and the other, even if it's not quite like that in the photograph. The photo doesn't matter. The photo is not gonna be there forever, right? So I gotta make it look believable as a drawing. And I think that's one of the main things that I see people making mistakes on, is that they adhere so intensely to the original that they don't kind of make the drawing itself come alive. Bunch of wrinkles in here. And then now let's do this thumb. So I think I'm going to widen the thumb a little bit here, actually. Because these other fingers were so wide, so I needed to widen my own. Okay. How does that look? And then, yeah, I just want to put in as many kind of little wrinkles in here. Can't really show that this hand is contorting. And then again, if I wanted to shade all of this, I'll just kind of put some quick shading on here. Now, does that answer your question, Palash, about the thumbnail? Is that what you were? Was there something more specific related to the thumbnail that you wanted help on, or does that? Okay, so looking at my own drawing here, even though, so I feel like the way that I drew the pinky was too much on the fence. Like, I feel like I should have made this pinky finger kind of coming up or going down. Just to, when it comes to drawing, we always sort of want to look for the moment before or after the action, right? Like where the spring is either like extended or collapsed. Maybe I'll kind of just... So we want to find that moment where, like, there's the potential energy. Let's say, like, somebody... So, for instance, let's say if I was drawing somebody punching, right? They're winding up for that punch, and their hand, it's like all the way back. Let me see. Let's go this way, this way. Right? And they're like, all the way back, right about to punch, right? And then if they're punching somebody, then we would draw they've come all the way across. Let me see, where would I be? Somewhere like this. Right? So, and then the other person's like, right? As opposed to this kind of right in the middle. Like, you want it, so in this same sort of sense, I kind of want this either pointing down or pointing up a little bit. Just to kind of, it looks more dynamic. It's in the middle of moving. And that's also kind of a personal thing. I want more movement. I want the image to look like it's moving. Plus, sent photos through Facebook. Okay, awesome. Heidi says, placement of fingernails is challenging, for sure. And that's definitely something that is tricky. It's almost like a class in and of itself to kind of talk about how to draw fingernails. The main thing is really looking, like, I was really looking carefully at the hand. And it's sort of like what I was talking about here, is that you always sort of want to go one way or the other, right? So let's say, and it also depends on how long your fingernails are. Like, if you have fingernails that are longer and coming off the hand, that's a whole other thing than fingernails that are trimmed back, right? So, you might have a situation where your fingernails kind of are pointing this way. Let's draw another finger. Let's say this finger's pointing right at us. We would have this situation where the fingernail comes up and almost kind of appears to form, like, it kind of rounds up, even though, from the front it's like this, but if it's kind of pointing directly at us, it kind of loses that. So it goes from here, and then it kind of, does that make sense? Right, so you're looking for, where is it going this way, or is it kind of coming around this way, depending on the angle that it's being viewed at. Okay, so what I want to try doing is some faster drawings of hands. Maybe I'll just wait for a second here, because I think I did that drawing pretty quickly. But I think if you see these kind of cylinders like that, the complexity of a hand starts to get more and more simple. And even if getting that is too hard, coming back to something where it's a little bit more blocky, I think works. By all means, what we're talking about today is not easy stuff, but it does get easier and easier. And I remember as a kid, like, I would just spend like hundreds of hours drawing hands. I would just use my hand and just, you know, make a fist or a point, and I would try to draw it from a bunch of different angles. And you only have to do it a couple of times before it starts, you know, burrowing itself into your brain, and you can kind of figure the optimal, you just start getting into a habit of it. But it really does take a little bit of practice. Okay, how should we do this? Okay, where did that go? Okay, 1 second, I just gotta reboot that app. I was being a little bit... Okay, there we go. So, which one do I want to use here for us? Okay. Got a little glitch going on here, so let's let's build a new one. Got our sketchbook here and this here. Okay, so let's divide our page into quarters. And now we're just gonna kind of make this a little bit, let me see, let's find another. How closely was that? Maybe let's try doing, we'll tackle this. So we're going to draw a few of these a little bit smaller. So, and we're going to draw them faster. In fact, do I have my clock here? Well, let's say, if I say 10 minutes, I might terrify people. Okay, I'd like to try to do these in 4 minutes each. Okay, so we're gonna try to draw 4 hands, or maybe I should do it in 4 minutes. Okay, so let's, to get this, we're gonna look for the bread shape. Okay, so this is that palm, right? We've got our thumb, and you can see, like, you know, previously I might have drawn the fingers first. Maybe in this instance, I'm just going to try drawing the thumb first. So, I have that thumb kind of coming out. These fingers, I'm going to just sort of draw them as I kind of see them, as kind of like little sticks. Okay, so, and then let's put this here. So that was like a minute of drawing. And then I'm gonna like just say, do I want to go straight? Yeah, so I'm gonna just kind of show you how I would kind of draw this quickly. Okay. I'm actually hardly looking at the photograph right now because I'm just sort of, I want to try to get the essence, like this underdrawing is kind of the essence of this pose. these fingers right there, this is kind of pointing a little bit more towards us. So I could even make this larger but smaller. Okay. So, you know, a couple, what was 16 minutes? So that was 3 minutes I've been drawing on that. So I mean, I'd like to go even faster, but for our purpose, that's pretty good. What's another one? Okay, do I have another one like that pointing away? Well, let's try this one, okay. So, again, I'm going to look for the bread, right? Here's this bread shape in here. So notice, rather than being a V shape, it's coming out because that angle, everything's going further away, right? So you can imagine this shape now. The thumb is under here. Right, there's my thumbnail and this wrist. Right, this big hand, and then we have these little fingers. So now I can look at the drawing. I'm just going to switch this to 4 minutes a piece here since I'm moving a little bit. I guess maybe I'm moving a little fast, so maybe I'm just going to hold off for a second. So we can see this. I think I need to shorten these fingers, and I could even make them smaller. And I think I'd probably make this thumb bigger, and just so it'll fit on the page, I'm going to just kind of bend it. Okay, so that this would be I'm just going to kind of, let's say this comes out here, some of this thumb. So again, you see this line here telling us that this part is in front of that thumb. And I kind of like the way that that pinky finger is kind of curving. Right, so these are kind of intended to show how that hand is just receding into the distance. Okay. Right, so my hand kind of looks maybe a little bit more round than maybe I could have kind of thinned it out a little bit. I just kind of like, I really like these dramatic kind of, in fact, I feel like the whole hand should have been smaller as it receded here. But I think that's okay. So I could also, you know, I could shade this whole thing. It's some nice kind of hatching lines. Okay, what's another one here? So let's see how far we can do in 4 minutes. So let's look. How can I fit this on the page? Maybe I'm just gonna turn this a bit. Oh, since this is up, I was going to say this is a great book. This is one of the books I used to learn how to draw hands by Hugh Laidman, Figures and Faces. Which one was this one here? Okay. So, I'm just going to keep turning my sketchbook so that... which one was it? This one? Okay. I think I'm just going to turn the sketchbook right onto its side here. Look at that, I just killed a minute here. Let's start it over again. Okay. So I'm going to look for this bread shape here. And you know, even if you can't find it, I would still start with this shape. Right? We've got... I probably could have moved it down a little bit here, but I'll just keep on, we'll move forward. So if this is the palm, right? And this is the thumb, right? The thumb comes up and then appears to kind of come up here like this. We gotta have a joint right about here, and then this thumb. Okay, and then these other fingers a little bit longer. So I'm just going to kind of quickly sketch them in. So now I'm going to come and begin draw from front to back. Oh, I forgot this finger right in front here, didn't I? You know, I can already hear, I can hear my mom saying to me afterwards, like, "Ooh, today's lesson was a little bit tough. I wasn't able to do some of those hands," which, you know, I can totally understand. Like, some of this stuff, like these hands, I'm doing them fast, and I'm not really explaining too much as I'm doing them. So I can understand if you just want to watch and then pause and watch it again later. This just basically just comes from applying these ideas of those cylinders and kind of those kind of rectangular shapes over and over and over, and then you start to kind of be able to do it easier. Let's leave that for a second again. Got 3 seconds left on the clock there. Okay, and while we're doing that, maybe I'm just going to look for maybe something else. Fists. We haven't done a fist yet. Let's move this into the middle here. So what would be a good fist? So yeah, I just took all these photos on my phone. I just put a little piece of white paper below just to kind of help isolate my hand from the background. So that would be my recommendation. Or of course, you can just go back and watch this video and pause it to find different ones. You can just draw my hand if you like. This one. Here's a fist, so maybe I'll keep this sketchbook like this to draw. Okay. So to draw this fist, it's the same sort of thing, right? Even though we can't see this piece of bread inside, you know, like it might be maybe even easier if you just sort of think of like this is the wrist coming up here, right? Here's the wrist, and let's say I'm going to put this is kind of this part of the wrist, right? I'm kind of drawing that. And then I say, okay, here's my slice of bread. Okay, here would be that cashew or bean. Here's this part of the pad of the hand. And then here's my thumb. All right. And now, it's okay, so I've got all that built. So now let's see the things that are most clearly visible to me is this thumb. All right, so we have that first joint. And then we have the second joint. And then thumb. Okay. So these other fingers, since they are, you know, ordinarily, they'd be kind of pointing up. As they curl in here to make a fist, now, let's say this is the middle, they're pointing right at us. If you think of like these as cylinders, right? So this cylinder is pointing straight towards me. So I just see this cylinder, right? And then here's the next cylinder. It bends straight down. So one cylinder, two cylinder, and then the other one's kind of hidden underneath as the fingers curl into my palm, right? So I'm just looking for all of these shapes. And then, you know, you can see that depending on how tightly you clench this fist, maybe this cylinder comes down here, this one here, and this one up here. And we may not even be able to see much of these fingers because they're kind of foreshortened right in there. You could just kind of cheat a little bit by making it pretty dark. Okay, so let's kind of go and shade this in. So maybe I'm going to start here on the outside of the thumb with this kind of curving line. I'm going to leave this because I can't really, well, maybe let's just see if I can go in here and boost the shadows. can't quite see too much in there, can you? Might help a tad, but so we got all these kind of wrinkles coming up here. Okay, so now let's look for this first finger. It's kind of hidden in behind. This one. I'm just going to enlarge it because I just felt like it needs to be bigger. And you see how this one kind of just overlaps a little bit? Because we see a little bit of the side. Alright, so then we've got the skin that's being pushed out to the side in that fist. Sorry if my head is in the way. Okay. And then again, you know, if I wanted, I could kind of just shade all this in because this is the darkest part. See, like the shadows or casting shadows, or these fingers are, sorry, casting shadows all over the place. You know, when in doubt, just put a big shadow right over top of things. You know, I was just actually watching the movie Sin City briefly last night, just because there's a bit of research for a project I'm working on, and you know, which is based on a Frank Miller comic book. I think he co-directed with Robert Rodriguez that film, Bruce Willis, and I can't remember who else is in that film. But you know, everything's it's like super noir kind of lighting, right? Everything's super dark, super high contrast shadows, theatrical lighting. Okay. So I'll just leave that there for a second. I don't know if we have time to kind of start another kind of finished drawing for today. Do I want to? Maybe I think I'll. Oh, I should say that there's a photo on Facebook. So maybe while I wait for you guys to finish this up, I'm gonna take a look and see if I can find that. Oh, inbox. The internet can be a little bit slow since while I'm streaming this, oh my goodness, these are awesome. Is there more than one there? Wow. Okay. What's the best way for me to show these? Yeah, I'll just pull this right in here, and I'm going to bring myself back on the screen. So we got this one, and then we got another one here. These two sketches. Wow, look at these. Great work. Oh my goodness. see both of those side by side on there. Wow, good job. That makes me so excited, Palash. These are fantastic, quick sketches of hands. You know, again, this one on the right was based on our image from last class. And then this one is one we did, obviously, just a half hour ago or so. So these are great. You can really see that you understand the structure of the hand. And now it's just a matter of just, you know, drawing. I would just keep on making, I would fill a sketchbook up of drawings just like this. You know, it might seem at first like, oh man, but I guarantee you, if you were to spend, you know, I don't know, maybe, let's say 20 minutes a day over the next month. And I don't know, it's maybe for a lot of people it sounds actually like a lot. But you know, if you were working or you're a student in school and you're taking a break, instead of just opening up your phone and mindlessly surfing Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever else people are looking at these days, you know, just take your hand at your lunch break, draw in your sketchbook or on a blank piece of paper. You know, if you're at a restaurant, you could ask the waiter for a bit of the till tape or the back of the check and draw on that. You know, I used to just draw everywhere all the time. I also keep little sketchbooks. I think I've got, you know, and people give these things to me all the time, like just little tiny things that, you know, that are small enough that they can fit in your pocket. You know, something a little bit larger. These moleskins I love, right? But I also have, you know, a whole bunch of small, even thinner moleskins that kind of look like a passport, right? You know, international traveling passport that you could use for your drawing. So, what do I have any comments that I could say? I mean, I think, you know, in terms like this pinky finger, you know, had the same sort of issues that mine did. I think so I take responsibility for that. I think we'd want to sort of make it less straight and we'd want to bend it. But again, I did it, you're copying what the teacher did, so just sort of, you want to sort of think about bending them just like you did all these fingers. And these are great, like you're applying that lesson of one side's curved and the other side's also kind of curved. So you kind of think of them as kind of, you know, mirroring one another. And I think I would just do that with this thumb, because you could see how when they're both curving in the same direction, or when they're both kind of going in this way, it's, for the viewer, we don't have a clue as to what side of that shape we're looking at. So even though in the photograph it was like this, when we're drawing, we sometimes have to do it wrong to make it look right, if that makes sense. These fingers, this is fantastic. I think you did a really fabulous job with this other hand. So on both counts, this is very, very impressive for what everybody's doing here, especially you, Palash. So great work. Congratulations. So let me see here if there's anything else. Yeah, so look at everyone else is saying it looks awesome. All right, so look at that great feedback. So that's should be encouraging for you, but also I'm sure everybody else was doing great drawings today. You know, even me, when I'm looking at there's definitely times at the end of these shows where I come away and I'm like, wow, like that was a great drawing. I did some great drawings today. And then there's other times at the end of an episode I'm like, I didn't quite have it. Some of them are better than others. You know, like even on this sketch, where's my sketchbook? Well, if I can't find it, let's just, So I decided to put this up here because, you know, even on this page, you know, I really like how I did this hand. I think I could probably make spend a little more time on the fist. I could make it look better. This one I'm okay with. And this one I think I did a pretty good job, but I wasn't happy with the pinky finger. So there's times where things just click together and you're really happy, and there's other times you're like, well, I kind of like feel better or worse depending on it. And that's, I think, just before we kind of wrap up, I always make the analogy, the comparison to a roller coaster ride when it comes to being an artist, and that there are times where you're going up, 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 and everything, you're just like, oh my goodness, we're rocking and rolling and doing a great job. And then you get to the top of the roller coaster, and then boom, everything drops out, and you have that, oh my goodness, like, oh no, I just messed it up, messed up my drawing, I'm not happy with it, what a bummer, I guess I'm just no good, I should just close the sketchbook. What else can I'm going to try gardening. This drawing thing is just not for me, right? Or I'm just, maybe the violin, I need a different outlet, right? But you have to remember, just like the roller coaster, it's going to go down, and then it's going to come back up again, right? And then it's going to go down again, and it's going to twist and just do, right? So that experience of going up and down, you experience, you know, in every single drawing that you make. And then you also experience that throughout a period of drawings, when you're like this past hour and a half of us working together. There's times where everything's going well, and then you work on another drawing not so good, another one's really good, and right up and down. And then also throughout a whole career as an artist, where sometimes things just, you can't imagine them getting any better, and then boom, like, oh, nobody loves me, and I don't know good, I should quit, and then, oh my goodness, oh, I'm in a magazine or whatever, and then, right, so it goes up, and so if you just kind of take the long view of it, and this is maybe just a life lesson in general, that's just how, you know, it's like the heartbeat, up and down, up and down. And then when you realize that that's just a regular part of life, when you go down, it's not such like a cataclysmic, all is lost kind of feeling. It's just like, well, today was just not my day. You know, I'm a big sports fan, and you know, I've been watching a lot of hockey lately, and you know, just watch. This is maybe a total digression, and I would probably imagine very few people watching this are interested in hockey, or any sports altogether. But you know, just there was a hockey game last night. One of the best hockey players in the world, Connor McDavid, his team lost. Right, this is this guy. Like, you watch highlights, just amazing player, but he's not Superman, and the team lost. And you're like, oh, well, and you interviews after the game, well, just gonna have to play better next time. We're just gonna chalk it up and try to move on and keep. And so that's kind of like how your drawing experience is it, and you might have a stretch where you have 3 or 4 or 5 or a month of drawings that just aren't working. If you just pull a sketchbook out and keep on drawing, I guarantee you that you'll dig yourself out of it. And if anything, that whole stretch of struggle afterwards is like a revelatory experience. Like, one thing that I always think about is we never learn anything ever when things are always going right? If you're always drawing and every drawing is turning out great and you feel great, there's not a lot of actual learning going on there. It's when the drawings aren't going right, and then you got to like, what is going on? How come this didn't turn out? What can I do better next time to fix that? That's when you're really learning, and whether you notice it or not at the moment, is when you're actually growing, right? So I totally know it's hard to step back into that moment, and to kind of and to have that perspective in the moment is hard. But as just in my own experience, having gone through many of those things, you start to get used to them, and then you start to expect them. And then when you're having a really good drawing day or week and things aren't going well, you're just like, Okay, well, I'm expecting to run through a little bit of a rough patch. Any minute now, things are probably going to go, the roller coaster's going to dip down, and I'm just going to have to hold on tight, and then just have faith that I keep on working, and it's going to come back up again. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for drawing along with me. I hope you picked something up, and thanks for listening to me blab on and on. If this was a helpful episode, please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for hit the little thing that says all. You know, I don't post a ton of videos, but when I do, you probably don't want to miss it, especially if you've watched all the way until this point. So practice your drawing. Next class, we're going to be drawing feet, right? That part, and it's another thing, just like hands, that people try to avoid doing because they're afraid of doing it, because they don't think they're any good at it. And that's why comic book artists are always putting big boots on their characters, and everyone's always standing behind a box or some grass or a bush, right? Or getting out of a car. We can't. So, but if you know how to draw feet, all that's becomes so much easier, and you don't have to hide those things anymore. So we're going to learn this. I think it's one of the most useful things, because it's that thing that people try not, they just sort of like, it's the elephant in the room often when it comes to figures. Is it, sometimes people spend a lot of time on the hands, a lot of time on the feet, and they're like, feet are gross, I don't want to. But then you have a drawing that is just sort of the character's floating there, where the legs just end at the ankle. So we're going to solve that problem. You're going to learn how to do it, and you are going to be super grateful that you know how to use those skills later on when you're drawing other characters. So we will see you on Tuesday of next week. Get a little bit of drawing in over the weekend if you can. Otherwise, we're going to pick up where we left off. Enjoy your time off, or from me anyway, and my sound of my voice. And yeah, I think that's everything I had. So thanks, everybody. Enjoy your time. Bye-bye.